Hey guys, this is John Carrick. I am the author of Legacy of a Mad Scientist and The Legend of Ashley Fox, two amazing science fiction fantasy audiobooks here on YouTube for you guys. You can buy the ebooks from Amazon or Smashwords. I think on Smashwords they're free, and the paperbacks on Amazon, of course. But you can check them out here if you like. They're in the description, and there's links at the end. Today we're looking at Tarzan Annual number 2. This is Sal Buscema on pencils. I think he did the cover too. Honestly, don't know. I believe this is a John Buscema cover with Bob Hall on the covers, because right down here we've got a J Buscema and Bob B. Hall. I think you guys can see that maybe. So this is the cover for Tarzan Annual number 2, written by Bill Mantlo, drawn by Sal Buscema and F. Matera. G. Russo's on the colors. And this is a Tarzan and Judd Balja story in which they visit this kingdom of skulls. This is a tribal villager story. Now, I am extending Marvel Comics a massive amount of sympathy or empathy, or I don't know what the right word is, but because of the way that they do this, knowing that they give the artist just a couple page outline, and then he goes and draws the whole story, and the writer comes in behind him and fills in the rest of it. Here's what I'll say about this one. Everything that's awesome about it is the art. Everything that sucks about it is the exposition of the story. The plot development of the story is okay. The characters in the story is okay. The dialogue is relatively on character, but the exposition is garbage. And I would like to go so far as to rewrite this. There's so much white culture pushed into this black tribe. In part, it's understandable because it's a comic book. But now that we're neck deep in a very serious culture war, it's hard to look at this and not read it into it. So if Bill Mantlo is a white guy, he's a Shabbos white guy. My guess is that Bill Mantlo is a Jew. And this is more anti-white shit. But Tarzan is the hero of this story. He does not drive the plot. The plot is what happens in this. We had a story like this. This is actually very similar to the Pellucidar Alan Kraft, was it David Kraft story? What happens is Tarzan comes upon a murder scene where a group of people have been killed. This is blacks murdering blacks. As a matter of fact, this is a very Shakespearean bit where, like Hamlet, one king has murdered, a brother has murdered a brother to become king. And it's not the son that survives, but a daughter. And Tarzan, who is not Conan in this one, but Tarzan, comes upon this elder who has been wounded and is dying, and is not dead yet, and is protecting the princess of it's called the kingdom, but let's call it what it is, a village or a tribe. And she is hiding in this thing of rice. He tells her what's happened, that the king's brother has murdered him with a group of loyal mercenaries, soldiers, whatever you want to call them, city militia, warriors. Here we get a Silver Surfer hostess. Is this Silver Surfer? No, I think it's Nova or someone like that, but this is a hostess ad. I didn't read it, so you guys can take a look if you like. And I hope that I'm holding this in front of the camera. Seems like this framing is kind of okay. So this is a Captain Marvel hostess, one-pager. This is a great kind of ad for a comic book. This is awesome. This hostess ad right here, there's a ton of these. I'm sure someone will put them together if you could find some near mint prints of them, or even the originals. That's what all comic book ads should be, or they should be one big page, poster shots for some upcoming book. The little classified stuff is, maybe that's where all the money was. Anyhow, Tarzan and Judd Balja, his lion, discover the princess, who won't tell them her name, hiding in a basket of rice. And she starts in with all the typical bratty princessness. So in part, I can forgive that. And if you look at this as just an episode of 70s drama television, this is about 44 pages. This is double size, a regular issue. What does it say on the cover? King size. I hope king size is double, because it is. It's a lot of pages. And it never feels rushed. It's beautiful artwork. I hope I don't rush it today because I am in a little bit of a hurry, but this is a long story. This might not come up, this might not be posted until tomorrow morning. But I think it's worth it. I'm going to lean in because this is good. This is good art. There's not a single panel in here that I would throw away. There's a lot of narration panels I would throw away or rewrite. I don't know if Bill Mantlo was in a rush after he got the pages. Maybe the pages came in late and they had to meet the deadline, and so he only got a single pass, and he didn't get to go back over it and make it better and polish it, which is what writing needs. Writing needs editing. It's the same way you don't publish your sketches, right? You don't publish your first draft. So here, Tarzan and the Princess and Judd Balja, there's a flashback where we get Tarzan tells her Judd Balja's story about how his parents were killed, much like her parents, and that Tarzan raised him from a cub, and how long they've known each other, and he raised him with his family, with his son and his wife Jane, his son Korak. So this is definitely Tarzan that far along. Maybe even after he returned from New York, after being rescued by Korak. Maybe this came out after the series was canceled. It's possible. After the monthly series ended. They certainly invested some time in this. They invested a lot of time in this. Look at this Skull City, and the Skull Warriors are a lot like the, this is funny. This one issue combines Tarzan and the Northman, which both starred Alexander Skarsgård. Dude, really, it does. Think about that. It's the Northman's story, his story as the Northman for the princess, and him as Tarzan fighting these skull-faced tribesmen led by Damon Hunsu in the movie, who was, I think, the guy in Gladiator 2. He's really he's in Gladiator and in Tarzan, he's exactly like Conan's partner Zula. Conan's guy, Zula. I don't think Tarzan had a sidekick, a black sidekick, a tribal warrior sidekick. This book is stapled on the inside. I know there's a name for that. It's stapled like right here and right here. I know because I ripped one of the first pages. So what's happening here? Tarzan and the princess are back inside the city, and they are fighting the warriors loyal to her father's murderer, her uncle, who has seized the throne. There's a female Hamlet in the jungle. It's really easy, It's super easy to draw, and yet the writer couldn't help putting in all sorts of white cultural. He didn't make it African enough, in my humble opinion. At the same time, he tried to give the Africans a nobility of character and make them villains, and it doesn't work. The disconnect is too much. They don't have a culture that allows for that level of deception and treachery. They're much more transparent and two-dimensional, and he wrote a lot more layers into these characters than they deserve. One of the things that immediately happens, so Tarzan and the princess very quickly get captured. That's the Conan trope, and this is John Buscema's brother, right? So Conan gets captured in every episode. He throws a sword in every episode, and there's a flashback. We've already had the flashback of Judd Balja's childhood, but now we get Tarzan and Judd Balja captured and brought before the new king, who has to balance. See, here's the problem of this. He can't just murder the princess openly, or he'll lose the support of the people. And yet, he also wants to marry her and rape her before the night is out. There's all sorts of villainy and crude, savage nonsense, and yet he has to keep the support of the people. Like, this only makes sense for a white audience. And we all know blacks don't read, right? They certainly didn't read comics in the 70s. And maybe there were some of them reading Tarzan as a way to try to be white. This is the world we live in, guys. This is what the culture war means. You wanted this. This is what you wanted. Remember that. You asked for this. So here's Tarzan tied up, and the priest blows some drugs in his face that... Oh, this is really good. Tarzan breaks his bonds, and the priest drugs him. He blows some drugs in his face and knocks him unconscious. Happens on the next... Well, blows the drugs in his face on this page. Or right here. The second panel on the top row. And then Tarzan falls down unconscious. This time they chain him. Not just ropes, but chains. And that, funnily enough, doesn't get mentioned in the exposition. The exposition in this issue is garbage. The narration captions are garbage. The dialogue is not so bad, but I almost think the narration captions were just handed off to some assistant junior editor Jew. That's my humble opinion. Fuck you, Marvel Comics. You pitched it, you made your bed, fucking sleep in it. Those sirens are for you, Jews. Here is Tarzan in the dungeon overnight with Jadbalja in the dungeon overnight. Princess Aisha is dragged off to her uncle's chambers where she's told the whole plot that she's going to marry him, etc., etc. Tarzan is attacked by giant rats in the night that he strangles with his chains. Jadbalja kills them with his claws. In the morning, when the guards come down to get him, they do mention that they had expected him to be murdered by the rats, and it would have been better for him if he had. Then they bring him out to the ritual chamber at the center of the temple, of the mountain temple, with this giant altar. Now, I had thought they were going to write cannibalism into the story, but they've got something better in store. Much, much better. We got one more Conan trope here. These Africans, so here they start all the... Yeah. This is the sort of James Bond villain exposition that's not really necessary. And the African priest gets too close to Tarzan. He seizes him by the neck and kicks over the sacred flame, which is the only thing that holds back the demon, the dweller in the dark, the giant snake that they worship in this particular temple of Set. Remember, Africa is just south of Egypt. And that is the birth of snake worship. Snakes are immortal. They cast off their skin and they're brand new. So here we get a giant snake that is now confused about who its sacrifice is supposed to be because the flame has been kicked over and everyone's going everywhere. So Tarzan and then the warriors fight the snake. Jadbalja gets free first and sets Tarzan free. As a matter of fact, what happens is Tarzan does the call of the great ape, the Tarzan scream down here at the bottom. And that and Jadbalja had been his lion since it was a cub. So that enrages Jadbalja and he brings him to Tarzan's side where Jadbalja kicks and snaps the chains holding Tarzan. He's able to snap the other chains on his own now that one arm is free. It's a comic. This is the level of plot hole stuff that you can tolerate in a comic. Maybe they're old chains, it's rusty iron, but the whole nonsense about a drug that just paralyzes one version of speech, like that's... Or flying across the ocean, and those kind of plot holes are nonsense. I much prefer the plot holes where a lion and a guy armed with nothing but a knife that he gets from nowhere. So he doesn't have a knife when he gets free, right here in this panel, but he does have a knife when he leaps onto the snake and starts stabbing it. Which is, you know what, that kind of plot hole I'll allow. He snapped it up. It was a ritual knife on the altar. Who knows? One of the savages had this knife. And now we get 2 pages of brutal, savage violence. This is what the comic is all about. And if you can limit the plot holes to get to these places, that's all you need. That's all Conan needed. A horse, not enough food, an army opposing you, and you've got a story, right? You don't even have to mix in the magic. Just plain old human greed and swords are enough. The magic is just icing on top. The magic is what allows snakes to get really big and allows people to have rituals, sacrificing people to them. And this is completely believable, by the way. There's nothing about this that is excessively unbelievable. There's no magic here where someone turns into a demon. There's no talking dragons. The snake doesn't negotiate with them. There's nothing about this that is that unreal, other than the fact that Tarzan is unbeatable, and that he can always be knocked out and never have a lasting concussion. The priest kidnaps the princess, drags her out of the mountain, and threatens to rape her and make her his queen now that the other king is dead. Back here, I neglected to show you guys this. The princess stabs and kills the king. I believe it's right here. So that's significant. The king is dead. All the prophecies, they have all these prophecies that are involved. And now the warriors are attacking the snake too. They're throwing their spears at it, and the snake knows that it's dying, and it panics and it flees. But instead of fleeing deeper into the mountain, it flees up the same track that the princess and the priest had taken. And now I have to call her the princess until the end because she doesn't say her name until the end. The last one was Princess Aisha with the big round fro that didn't change when she got wet. This girl has white hair, which is interesting. It's been in a ponytail so far. And she's also very young. She's like 12. There's a lot of scenes where she's drawn really, really young. And towards the end of the book, she actually seems to get a little bit younger. She's maybe 14 or 15, Way too young to have a relationship with. Way too young to be playing around with. Especially for these priests and her uncle who have both threatened to rape her. And now her uncle is going to, or the priest is going to throw her off the cliff. And then the snake shows up and sends everyone over, but she manages to catch a handhold. And here Buscema he uses the little bit of arrows on this page because it's a kind of unorthodox panel order. Whereas these days, the new artists would have done one big thing in 4 inset panels, which I fucking hate. I despise inset panels. Just draw fucking panels. Don't draw one big picture and then draw a picture over a dead space. I fucking hate that. And I know I'll be doing it myself, but I still hate it. It's wrong. I prefer gutters. Scott McCloud, Understanding Comics. These gutters are uniform in this book. They're all about a 1/16 of an inch. Probably an 1/8 of an inch on a 10 by 15 or 11 by 17 sheet of paper. And this is the end. Tarzan rescues her. Here we get her with her hair down. White girl hair. And Tarzan explains why he can't stay. He's got to go. She really wants him to stay, but she understands, etc., etc. He'll always be welcome. And Tarzan and Jodhpalja head back to their end of the jungle. And this is what I wanted to talk about today a little bit. There's been some drama, lots of drama online, lots of drama around comics. We still have the conflicted card, and I can do this now, and we'll talk about the rest later because this kind of applies. Yesterday, I don't think I gave a little story, a little anecdote, which I should have, but I wasn't in the right frame of mind. This anecdote, this card is about you have a place, a bug out location in the rural wilderness, and what you feel like you need a psychological barrier, not a physical barrier, but you need a psychological barrier to keep people from coming toward your place. I had said to do nothing, to find a specific elevation on a mountaintop from which you would not need to descend and stay above that. But the psychological barrier that Vlad the Impaler used that resulted in the world's first horror novel, and when Gutenberg printed the Bible, which was the first thing printed, the other thing that they were doing in those times was pamphlets. There's a lot, like mini magazines, like 4-page, or what would be, I guess, 2 sheets, or one folded sheet, or 2 sheets, so you got 8 pages, a third sheet, you've got 12, a fourth sheet, you've got 16, right? They did one of those for Vlad the Impaler, and it went all over Europe, and it was one of the first sort of big scares of Europe. This guy had defended Europe by impaling 10,000 prisoners over a 3-day period, and when the pursuing army came upon the forest of the impaled, this is the thing. Sultan Mehmed II's army was chasing Vlad through Wallachia, modern-day Romania, down the Danube River toward Târgu from the Black Sea, I think it's Black Sea, right? And they were a few days behind them. Vlad was poisoning the wells and salting the fields and burning the fields. And so there was nothing to drink for this oncoming army, no food to eat, no cattle. Vlad was taking all the cattle. And when he got to Târgu, he had nowhere to go. That was his capital. He was going to turn north. And he had all these prisoners he couldn't support. He couldn't maintain them, and he had them impaled. And he took his meals on the field doing it. And when the Sultan Mehmed's army came upon the forest of the impaled, they were marching 24/7 because they had no food. Their only means of sustenance was to catch Vlad and demand his surrender. And when they came upon the forest of the impaled, it was at dawn, and so they'd been marching in the darkest night. It was overcast, they couldn't see anything, and they gradually heard these moanings and spectral voices all around them, because when you get impaled, it takes several days to die. And so when the sun finally, the mists and everything, like literally like Halloween town, right? When it came up and they saw all their countrymen impaled, it was too much, and their nerve broke, and they turned around and walked back. And if Vlad hadn't done that, Europe may well have become Islamist in 1456 when this happened. 1452, 1456, something like that. So that's one psychological barrier. You could do that. Sure could do that. We'll do another one tomorrow because it's getting late and I am running a little short on time today. I want to get this up tonight before I have to leave. And I also want to talk about why I'm doing this. I am so happy, you guys. I'm drawing and it's fun. I've got a drawing over here of one of my 2 characters, Jeremy. So it's Jamie and Jeremy are the 2 main characters for my skating comic. And he's up on a fence and it's going really well. I'm really happy with it, but it's nowhere near as satisfying as writing. And writing is so satisfying because I have not compromised in a lot of places that were important in my life. And so now I am producing chapters that, even if no one ever reads them, I know they're so good. They're as good as anything you guys are watching on TV. I am super, super happy, creatively satisfied, I guess is the way to say it. So I hope, and I am the least likely person to be living this life if you looked at the kids I grew up with. They were all more talented, maybe not smarter. I was always a relatively intelligent kid and a bit of a smart ass, which got me into a lot of trouble, but they were all more talented than me. And so what I mean to say to you guys is that hard work can get you anything you want. it's not discipline like being disciplined, like being a one-track sort of person. That's not what I mean. I mean, give yourself over to the work, and give yourself over to work that you love so that it's not work. When you love doing something, I was exhausted. In the past few days, I have written 75, almost 8,000 words, probably close to 8,000 words, which is a lot, and it is creatively draining. But when I'm spent, but I just like lean back and I'm just so, I'm afraid I'm not sober, but it's fucking awesome. I've got a new novel. I've got a third novel now, and this one I'm going to sell. This one I'm going to pitch. This one I'm going to demand to get on podcasts and to share it. And we've got like 50 covers. My friend Jay, who did this artwork, and Ashley Fox Ninja Babysitter, The Last Valkyrie, issue number 6, issues number 1 through 5 are not done. He drew all this. He was a storyboard artist for Marvel animation for the Hulk series. And we don't have this colored yet, but it's the story of how Ashley gets killed fighting some bad guys and saving this baby, keep hope alive, and she gets promoted to be an angel because that's how you do that. So this is here in the description, and as every day, thank you, Michael Sarion. I know that a bunch of my viewers are finding me through the links to Michael Sarion. Check out unslave.com, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.